Hello everyone, here I am with today's Hindustan Times Editorial of 5th September 2021. Before we move further on to read the editorial, let us have a quick glance over the vocabulary words that we're going to come across in this session. The first one is platitudes. It means a remark or statement, especially with the moral content that has been used too often to be interesting or thoughtful. So it is basically talking about something that is being spoken and it is valid and it has some moral content and moral intentions behind it, but it has been said repeatedly so many times that it hurts your ears and it doesn't sound interesting and instead irritates you. Next is emanating. It means of a feeling, quality, or sensation, issue, or spread out from a source. So it's basically talking about something that is being spread out from a source, and that something is either a feeling, quality, or sensation. Amenable. That means open and responsive to suggestion, easily persuaded or controlled. So it is talking about a person who is very open to responses and likes to hear other people's responses and opinions, and that's why it is easy to persuade him by telling your problems or your opinion and to control him or her. Variance. That means the factor, quality of being different, divergent, or inconsistent. So here I would like to add that derive this word variance from variant or various. That means a lot of different types of something. So here it's basically talking about the factor or quality of being different. Next is de facto. That means in fact, whether by right or not. So it basically is talking about it is a fact, although it might be wrong or right, that doesn't matter. It is a fact, so it is a fact. You can't deny it. Next is stint. It means supply a very ungenerous or inadequate amount of something. So let's take an example. You see a beggar on the road and you just give him a penny that is worth only 1 rupee. So that 1 rupee coin is no use to him, although you're being generous, but at the same time you're too selfish because you're just giving him 1 penny, which which isn't going to buy him something. So you are being stint because you're supplying him very ungenerous or inadequate amounts of something. You are a stint basically. Here are the voices of women of Afghanistan. So this voices are the women of Afghanistan who are being suppressed or have already suffered the suppression of Taliban earlier, and once again now the Taliban is there, so they are afraid that once again the same thing would follow and they would be suppressed and their human rights would be violated. So it's talking about we should hear their voices and put notice on it. So this article is a very simple one, but it is very important. So that's why I've chosen this one today. Amid the violence in Afghanistan, the fate of women is what is already a de facto Islamic emirate has received inadequate attention. Here it's talking about that the Islamic Emirates have paid very less attention on the issue of women in Afghanistan, and this is a fact, although it's right or not, but it is a fact. To be sure, there are usual platitudes about how the rights of Afghan women should be at center of negotiations with new ruler. So, although there are platitudes, that means that there are being talks, there are being talks, if there are moral content that is uh, widespread on the social media and even amongst the people. But so far, the Taliban has been opaque about its intentions. Despite the fact that there have been so many platitudes around women and on all social media platforms and amongst the people, still the intentions of Taliban regarding women is opaque. That means it's not even clear, it's not even visible. I spoke to Mahabua Siraj, this is that lady, president of the board of Afghan's Women Network and human rights activist who lives in Kabul. She said she doubted whether the Taliban would keep its word about allowing women to be educated and work. So, Mahbuba Siraj was interviewed, and she said that I really doubt the intentions of Taliban, and they're saying that women will be allowed to work and go out of their houses and be educated. The group has spoken of how women's right will be governed by Sharia, rather its version of Sharia. So the Sharia law that they currently follow is not the true Sharia law, because there have been a lot of modifications in the true Sharia law which has finally led to the making of the current Sharia law. So here is saying that we'll be ruled by the current Sharia law, and Siraj was not sure how much control the Taliban would have given the violence emanating from even more fundamentalist outfits. So, here, emanating means to spread out, like a feeling or something that's spreading out. So, she's trying to basically say that she's not sure of how much trouble or how much violence they will cause by looking at the current fundamentalist outfits of the Taliban, in which we can already see that there have been two bomb attacks on the Kabul airport, and already women are not allowed to be educated in co-ed schools, and they are leaving their jobs and everything. I worked with my countrywomen for the last 20 years as we slowly reclaimed our lives from the first Taliban rule. Make no mistake, it was the brave women of Afghanistan who worked with matchless courage all these years for our rights. So it's saying that uh, I have worked with women for the last past 20 years after the first Taliban rule was over, and you cannot imagine how much courage we had to gather to get back this position, and how much fight we have been through. Yes, we heard a lot of talk about human rights for women from world leaders, but it was just that talk. So she's saying that yes, we have heard that world leaders from different countries and different places are talking about women's right, but they are just talks. Nothing is going to change. They are just talks that they are giving on podiums, and no actions are being taken. The Taliban says it wants to engage with the world. Many feel that this indicates the group may be more amenable to pressure than in its first stint in power on the issue of women's rights, among other things, but that remains to be seen. The fact that Taliban is saying that they want to engage, that means trade and do everything with the other parts of the world, this means that they will respect women and give them rights, because there has been demand from other countries and other world leaders regarding the situation of women and their rights. So this can happen, but things remain to be seen. We do not know what is going to happen. Everything the Taliban says today regarding women is questionable. Its idea of personal freedom is at variance with that of most Afghan women, says Samira Hamidi, Afghan country campaigner from Amnesty, South Asia. Over the last 20 years, many women went abroad for studies and professional courses and came back to build a better Afghanistan. I am one of those women. So, she is Samira Hamidi, and she says that whatever Taliban says about women and protecting their rights is it's questionable. Their intentions are truly questionable, and she's saying that it has taken a lot of time, like 20 years, to rebuild Afghanistan, and during this course, many women have gone abroad to study to gain more knowledge so that they can come back to Afghanistan and start up their own businesses and help the country of Afghanistan grow and rebuild. And she is one of those women. They have expertise and had taken their rightful place in many systems across the political and social spectrum. Now all that is gone, she says. She is saying that we had been educated and had been specialized in different sectors, and then have come back to Afghanistan and were controlling the sectors of the governance in Afghanistan and many sectors otherwise as well. But now that the Taliban is back, all of that is gone because women are not allowed to work anymore. Many women's groups believe that the United Nations and other human rights organizations can push much harder on the issue. Some suggest setting up an international force, somewhat akin to peacekeeping mission, to attempt to safeguard women's rights in Afghanistan. So it's saying that if really if world leaders are talking, instead of just giving empty talks, they can at least take simple steps, such as in the UN, such as ensuring that women's right in Afghanistan is not violated, uh, and there has to be a key or close attention on this. It may not work, but there has to be concerted effort instead of a wait and watch approach when women stand to lose all their hard won gains. It can be that the UN's initiatives and their steps do not get to a end result, but at least trying is better than just sitting hands on hands, because we cannot be waiting to see what Taliban does with women, because by then women would have lost their jobs in Afghanistan and would have lost everything that they have earned in the past 20 years and that they have done to rebuild themselves and their country. World leaders must speak up. Wishy washy statements will not do. So, these world leaders should speak up and do take actions regarding this, and should not talk wishy washy statements that are empty statements and talking about what they wish and things like that. Anita Anand, former director of Women's Feature Service, who has been deeply involved in civil society movements in Afghanistan from 2004, says it is important to focus on contributions of women to Afghanistan's development over the past 20 years. Nothing in Quran says that women's work or education is un-Islamic. On the contrary, the Quran enjoins everyone to work from the good of society. And Afghan women have done this side by side with men, she says. So she's Anita Anand, and she says that uh, women have also done a lot in the past 20 years to rebuild Afghanistan. And in Quran, if you look, there's you cannot find even a single point where it says that women and men cannot work together. So that means that women and men can work equally, and that is better for the society. Many, like Siraj, who have chosen to stay back, have displayed indomitable courage in a terrifying situation. I don't feel totally safe, but I don't feel unsafe either at the moment. I'll not leave my country. I have as much right to be here as the Taliban. I know. I want to see it through, even if I don't know whether I will live to do so. So she's saying that here it's saying many like Siraj. So Siraj is this woman. So have taken initiative or have thought to stay back in Afghanistan and not leave the country. Says that she has as much right as the Taliban, and so she'll not leave the country at any cost, and she will live here. She don't know where, but she will live in Afghanistan to see how her country changes and what will happen to it. The world owes to thousands of women who have chosen to stay in Afghanistan, and those who have no choice but to stay, to use all the leverage it can to ensure that Afghanistan women don't become just a footnote in the violent politics of stiff-torn country. So here it's saying that we owe to all those women who have decided to stay back in the country, and they want women to get equal representation and want to live with dignity, and they don't want to be just a footnote in the violent politics of stiff torn country. That means that they also want to engage in politics and want to make rights for the women in Afghanistan and want equal representation in the governance as well. So that was it. Thank you, everyone.